Today is about Louis Kahn. So actually the first part of Louis Kahn. This is the subtitle made by me. So after reading his essays, I choose the key words those were form and right and silence and institution and communism. He talked about these 5 words many times. So I made something by using the five words. That is form of right and silence for institution and communism. The form, according to the Louis Kahn's definition, I think is different from the definition, general definition of general definition. I think to him, the form is not like shape of something, shape of object. The form is more a fundamental thing of something. So, I think that is the very philosophy. I think that kind of definition is very closely related to the philosophical things. I'm not good at the philosophy, so I don't want to talk about that. But I guess that is related to, the deconstructive, the philosophy too. I'm not sure. This is just my assumption. So to him, this is this is pointer, right? But this is a pointer made by someone. So, but the fundamental form of pointer is not this, right? So we can imagine the many different kinds of pointers, right? But normally, someone talk about a pointer, we imagine this kind of thing. So this is kind of this is conception. But a form of pointer could be totally different from the form which we already know. So that is the form he defined. And right is right, right. And the silence, right and silence, it comes together in his essays. The institution is, to us, institution is more like the organization, right? The schools and the army, and that is the institution of understanding of us about institution. But to Louis Kahn, the institution is more like the community, the society, I think. The commonness is hard to describe right now, but I'm going to talk about that later. But actually, one of a professor in Seoul National University, who is that guy? Kim, do you know the Kim Kwang-yeon? Yeah, Professor Kim, he published a book about commonness, that is 공동성, by Korean translation, 공동성. But the many Korean people misunderstand the 공동성 as 공공성. So many Korean people misunderstood the commonness as publicness, but it's totally different thing. So because the Professor Kim, he really likes probably Louis Kahn is not one of the most favorite architect to Professor Kim. So that's why he named his book as commonness, 공동성. But many people understand that is 공공성. So that's the misconception. And also, actually, the students and many teachers and professors, they use the commonness as a publicness, but it's totally different thing. 공동성 is totally different words with 공공성. So we have to know that. So I already showed these images. He was born in Estonia. So he got burned on his face when he was 3 years old, as we watched in the movie. He was born in 1901, actually the first year of 20th centuries, and he got a bachelor degree from University of Pennsylvania. And we went to Europe 28 to 29 and teaching Yale, 'Yale, 'and also UPenn too. Actually, he, when he was young, when he was 20 and 30 years old, he made many proposals. So he didn't have many built works, even in 40s. But after mid 20th century, 1950, he started to have the commissions, real practice, and then he realized his ideology about architecture. So actually, he started his practice very late. So most of his famous buildings built when he was 60, actually older than 60 years old. So we already saw this quote in the movie. Diane Pei said, to build 3 or 4 masterpieces is more important than 50 or even 60 buildings. I think Louis Kahn has many built works, but comparing to his position as a global architect, he didn't have many built work. So I think and also financially he bankrupted when he was dead. So he's kind of a really artist type architect. But I.M. Pei, he's kind of businessman. He's a successful architect. He's a good designer, but at the same time, he's a businessman too. And Philip Johnson, he's also kind of an artist type of architect, but he also considered. He also talked about that in that movie. He said the public opinion, the perspective to him is very important. So he always wants to be famous, and he wants to be successful. So his financial situation was much better than Louis Kahn, I think. And also he's from the rich family too. But Louis Kahn he's from poor family. He don't have a good background actually in terms of finance. So, and also he's very artistic, very focused in the design itself. So he's in terms of financial situation, he wasn't very successful. But just looking at the architecture, he's probably one of the greatest architects in 20th centuries. He's a great architect, greatest architect in America too. So I'm gonna introduce the 5 essays today. 3, probably 2 or 3. It depends on the time. Yes, the first thing is monumentality. He was born in 1901, so he wrote this essay when he was 42, 43. So monumentality is actually the first major essay he published in the architecture and urbanism journals. That is the New Architecture and Urban Planning in America or something. I'm not sure, but that used to be one of the major journal in architecture field. So the monumentality is the first thing actually, first written, the first thing to show the idea as a written, as a writing, by a writing to show his ideas. So he said the monumentality in architecture may be defined as quality. It's interesting. I.M. Pei also said that quality is more important than quantity, but he also talked about the quality. The quality is spiritual quality inherent in a structure which conveys the feeling of its eternity that cannot be added to or changed. So monumentality there is no clear definition about the monumentality, because it's more like it's a feeling, right? The feeling of eternity. It's hard to explain, but something, some structure to convey the emotional things. That we feel that. I think that's the feeling of monumentality is subjective. It's not objective, but Well, we have a commonness. That's the commonness. We have a commonness about monumentality, even though we cannot explain the monumentality clearly, but we have a common feeling about the monumentality, right? Do you understand what I'm talking about? That's the commonness. So we have something commonly agreed. And commonness means something we commonly agreed to, to some the phenomena or some situations. So he said we feel that quality in the Parthenon in Greece, the recognized architectural symbol of Greek civilization. I didn't go to Parthenon, so I don't understand what he was talking about, but I can understand at the same time. Monumentality is enigmatic. Enigmatic means mysterious. The monumentality is mysterious. It cannot be intentionally created. Right, it cannot be intentionally created. So let's just read this word. And so he also said the monument, neither the finest material nor the most advanced technology need enter or work of monumental character for the same reason that finest ink was not required to draw the Magna Carta. So that what he was talking about is, even if you have a really good pen, you cannot write really good novel, right? The monumentality is the same. Even though you have a really good material, really good skill, you cannot create the monumentality intentionally. Do you understand? The making monumentality, the creating monumentality is kind of a spontaneous thing. So it's not it cannot be designed probably. But commonly, we agree this building has a monumentality, right? So I took this photo, I think 10 years ago. It's exactly 10 years ago. I didn't go there by my intention. I just accidentally find it, and then I kind of screamed. Actually, it's great, The walking through the alleyway, and then just imagine walking through the alleyway. After walking through alleyway, and you suddenly saw this building, and then you feel something. I think that is monumentality. And also, I felt the monumentality in this building too. This building is the second oldest wooden building in Korea. That is the second oldest one. But I don't know that. But I didn't feel the monumentality from this building. But somehow I felt monumentality from this building. I don't know. I'm not sure why. I cannot explain that. But I just felt that. I don't know why, but it probably shows the materiality without any, any superficial things. Probably it's because of proportion of a building. I don't know, but I just feel the monumentality. I also felt monumentality from the bracketing system. I cannot explain that, but many people said they also felt monumentality from this system too. So let me just introduce my recent research. That's why I do this research, because I felt something from here, which I cannot explain. So I want to make it by myself. I want to I want to feel the same thing from my work. So I do this installation by myself. I'm not sure that also give people the monumentality too, but I was trying to make the same thing. Sometimes, nature also gives the monumentality. This is the Ulsan rocks in Sorak Mountain in Korea too. I felt the monumentality from this one too. So monumentality is unmeasurable. It's hard to explain. So, and also he talked about something different, but more related to the architecture. said the influence of Roman vault and dome and arch has etched itself deep few rows across the pages of architecture history. That means the Roman vault influenced a lot to the architectural history. That was very influential to Romanesque, Gothic, even Renaissance, even today. So that's the structure system invented in the Greek Roman period. Arch and the vault, better vault, that is, and groin vault, that were invented almost 2,000 years ago. It is timeless thing, right? It has power of something. So he used a similar idea to his work for the Kimball Art Museum. This is famous. This is not a vault. This is vault, kind of vault, but this is different from the traditional one. This is more like the circular vault. I forgot the exact name of the trajectory. Yeah, but it's invented by engineer. Anyway, but his original intention was that. But the engineer suggests something different. And this is photo I took. I think it is 6 or 7 years ago when I visited the Exeter Library. This is not that looks just the scale, the threshold, but actually, can you see that? It's very, it's arch, but it's very slightly curved, right? So he interpret the arch to make something like monumentality or the timeless things. So his works, if you look at his work just quickly or briefly, it's kind of boring, right? It's very geometric and he always use a pure form. But if you look at detail of his building, it's kind of surprising, So that's why the people who visit his building, every people, I think, was inspired by his work. I said there is no exemption, I think. Some people, they were disappointed with even, Le Corbusier, when they visit his building, actually, really. And some people disappointed Rembrandt too. But Louis Kahn, I think that every people I know who visit his buildings, they got just surprised and inspired. So that's the power of his design, I think. And also these days, this is the work by Toyohiro. So this is a reinterpretation of the arch too. So this kind of thing is a timeless thing. Is getting in. Is keeps being reinvented. So he said they will continue to reappear, but with added powers made possible by our technology. So that is the good example, right? That reappears by a new technology, by concrete technology and structural technology. So it's the same thing. But we don't know why this building is beautiful, but everyone said this is beautiful. But we cannot explain that. I think that's the feeling of something, timeless architecture and timeless, the structural thing, or timeless thing about the monumentality. So, and then he started to criticize the calculation and structure engineer. So he said combination safety factors, and structural calculation handbooks recommending sections much heavier than calculation. So that means the standardization about structure that makes the structure heavier than the calculation, because all the structural elements like the beam and steel column, that is produced in the factory. So there is a kind of a standard about all the factory produced architectural structural materials. So that is actually the, so it has to be produced in the factory. So it cannot be critically, calculated in terms of structure. So it's always heavier than the calculation. So that actually ruined all the beauty of architectural thing. Yeah, so engineer and architect, they work together as blah, blah, that kind of thing. So, for example, here, I'm going to explain what he was talking about by his building. I also visited Philadelphia a few years ago. That's the signage in front of his building. We saw that in the movie. Here, the Louis Kahn from 1901, 1974, among the foremost architects of the late 20th century, is trained in the Beaux-Arts method at the University of Pennsylvania. Kahn redefined the architecture through his extraordinary use of mass, light, and structure. The professor of the University of Pennsylvania, his office was here. Yeah, so it's kind of preserved, not preserved, yeah, preserved. And this is Richard Medical Research Laboratory. He is one of the first, the major commission. I didn't like this building though, but somehow it has interest in terms of structure, not architecturally, not aesthetically, but structure is very interesting. This is corner. He doesn't want to make the corner in the corner. He doesn't want to make the columns in the corner. So he used the interesting cantilever, the system, which is this. So that's the thing related to he was talking about. Everything about structure, it should be critical. We don't have to use the structural element that produced in the factory because that wasn't actually calculated. But one thing surprising is this is not the cast in the site. This is actually precast concrete system. So it's all assembled in the site. In the 1950s, they used that. In Korea, we cannot do that. This is 21st century, but we don't do that. Some, expensive building can do, but we don't do that. But in America, and Louis Kahn, he urged to use this system this structural methodology for the school building. That is amazing, I think. So all the joint and the structural joint, it became kind of spontaneously, it became the kind of architectural beauty, I think. So yeah, structure is great. Structure is I think it's very smart, and but architecture itself is, I don't know. And I didn't go inside, but from the interview in the movie, people complain about the planner organization. That they said it's not a good building for working. But I'm sure, because this is the one. So all the buildings, they connected by this narrow pathway, and this is staircase. This is air shaft, and this is air shaft. So one of the air shaft is for the sucking the dirty air inside, and then one of the air shaft is the making the fresh air to inside the building. But I don't think it works really well. And also, if you put the bridge here, making the interior circulation is very difficult. It's kind of strange, right? How are you gonna make the corridor? You're gonna make the corridor like this, or you have to cut the building, right? And then it became the two buildings, and the corridor it should be always dark, and the air in the corridor corridor, it won't be good. So I don't know. I mean, this is a very difficult building to do something inside. Yeah. Anyway, but it is. I mean, I didn't take too many photos, but I mean, somehow I do like this view, because I think I felt some kind of monumentality too. So this is the thing. I don't know. But his building has some power. Yeah, very strong gesture. I think that is this part. This is just the elevator. I think this corner, I guess. So that's the corner window is here, I think. And so he keeps saying the standardization and prefabrication and controlled experiments and tests and specialization. So artists, we have to know this one. We have to understand that. And then we can expel the pair in their use, broaden his creative instincts. That means we have to learn, all the advanced science and technology, construction methodology, and then we can use them for, broadening our design creativity. Do you understand? do you understand? Okay. So what he was talking about is just using your intuition and your ability, inherent ability and your creativity is not good. You have to understand the technology. You have to understand tools. You have to understand the science, and then you can use that to make something different, the better one. And sometimes, the advance over other people, other architects, other designer, and then you can be the good architect. That's the thing. So by doing that, you probably could make the building which has a monumentality, I guess. Yeah. So this part is I like. He said, yeah, the architect who possesses the will to grow with many angles of our development. So by understanding the science and technology and the construction system and our society, you can grow to somewhere. You can grow. You can have many angles to be something, to be more developed. So we have to run. We have to study. And then the second essays, that's the written. Actually, that's not written. This is he did a lecture. He did a lecture series in the local radio station in Philadelphia. And then this part is one of his the audio lectures performed in 1960s. Yeah. I mean, this part is the feeling and dream, the emotional thing, has no measure, has no language, every dream is singular. I don't know why I put this one. Let's just skip this one. Yeah, this part is very, I think it's very psyche. I think it's very emotional thing. So it's kind of too general. I think that part is important. I think the form. I forgot about the first part. I mean, before the phrase, he put the example about the form. Imagine the beginning of the school. So what's the form of schools? What's your imagination about the school? So everyone, I think most of people in Korea, we probably imagine this kind of thing, environment, as a form of school, right? But he said, but that's not true. If you think about the primitive form of school, probably he said probably one smart person or one good thinker he gathered children or younger people to talk about something, transcend his knowledge, right? Probably under the tree. So that's the form of basic form, fundamental thing of a school. So form is not measurable. It doesn't have actually, form doesn't have form. Form doesn't have a shape. Form is ideological thing. It's the very, so we have to think about the form. What is the real form of the building you want to design? So he said form is what, design is how. Form is what? Form is more fundamental. Design is how. How are you going to make that? The form is impersonal. Because form is more fundamental thing. Design belongs to the designer. Design is circumstantial act. Design, because the design has a limitation. How much money there is available, and the site situation, the client's opinions, extent of knowledge, that is the circumstantial things. So by the considering this kind of thing, we can do design. But a form is over those. Form is not related to money, it's not related to the site. So he said, the form has nothing to do with the circumstantial conditions. In architecture, it characterizes a harmonious space good for something activity of man. So we have to more think about the form rather than just doing the design. So he said good architect should think about the form, not design, right? Sometimes even though you don't have enough budget for building, but you have to think about what's the fundamental thing about what's the fundamental thing of what you want to design. So he said his opinion, the greatness of architect depends on his powers of realization of that which is, this house is, the capital, house starts with capital, this is the form. Rather than his design of a house, this is design. Design is a house means just the general house, and this house is something, the fundamental, this is the form. So design this way reflects this truth. Do you understand? I mean, somehow it's difficult. It's not easy. Sometimes he uses very difficult vocabulary, but this part, he doesn't use the difficult words, but actually it's not easy to understand. Let's just go further. Yeah, this is important. I think he said he means architects. Architects must, even if the design doesn't correspond to the budget, architects, I think it missed something. Architects must think about the form, even though that is not related to, that doesn't correspond to the budget. Thus, architects distinguished from mere designer. So as an architect, we think about the most important, the important thing and the fundamental thing, that is form. But just designer, that is just like the businessman. They only think about the circumstantial things. So if we want to be a good architect, you have to be, you have to have a big idea or a vision. Do you understand? Okay, so I'm gonna translate this one to Korean later. Yeah, I think let me finish today's lecture here.